the best Kiwi event in New Zealand, this.
Crossing New Zealand in 1 or 2 days.
Why do I do it? Because I love it.
3, 2, 1, go!
Hi team, Richard Greer, CP Media. We're here for another Kathmandu Coast to Coast podcast, and beside me we've got Matt Stewart. How are we getting on tonight?
Pretty good, thanks. Yeah, coming from a secret location in Christchurch, so yeah, we'll fizzed up for another big episode.
Yeah, season 3, episode 5. So we're going to talk physio, keeping yourself together. We're also going to, a lot of people with some kayak nerves. So we've got Rikki Griffin on board to help us with that tonight. And we're also going to check in to have a chat with Nicole and Sophie, who have been following through this season, about their progress, how they've been doing. Previous month in October, they've been doing some racing and bits and pieces. And we're going to check in to see how November's been in the lead into Christmas and things. How has your November been, Matt?
Well, it's been pretty busy, really. We've just finished some bits and pieces going on behind the scenes. And, yeah, I think it's really just kind of getting everyone organised ahead of time so that when the kind of end of January starts to roll around, people aren't freaking out about all these last-minute things or, especially now with supply chains and stuff being a little bit more stretched. Really want to make sure that you've got that set of tyres now, or you've got that new life jacket, or those sorts of things. You can't just kind of ring up the Monday morning of the week before the race and expect stuff to turn up. So yeah, just getting people organised.
That's right. I think you talk about it in every podcast, and you'll do it again tonight as well, just in regards to read the handbook, print it out, read the handbook. How many times have you read the handbook in the last month, Matt?
How many times have I read it?
Yes.
Probably not many, but I'm gonna say that I have a bit of local knowledge, but definitely about January is about the time we just get it out and make sure. And I guess for us, when we're supporting people, we might have several handbooks to read. So again, it's making sure we've got the right one. We know who's doing what and going where. So making sure they've got the right equipment and those sorts of things. But no, you've obviously listened to Rich, to what I've been saying.
Yeah, I do listen to one or two things, do you have to say, Matt? So in the previous season, we talked through each stage of the coast to coast. This season, we're talking through each transition in a bit more detail as well. So, Matt, you love a good transition, we've talked about the very first stage of the run off the beach to the bike. We've talked about the famous sort of Aitken's Corner transition last time as well, and this time it's a bit of a transition. It's a bit of a recovery period, to stop overnight. So I guess it's the third transition that you talk about. So Klondyke Corner, which is a pretty cool spot, real sort of there's a real vibe going on. A whole tent city and things arrives over a couple of days, and then you wouldn't even know it if you arrived a week late. But talk us through that third transition, what it's all about, and what do we need to know?
Yeah. Okay. So let's split it into two halves, because obviously the one-day athletes have a specific set of requirements, and that transition is quite different to the 2-dayers. So go through the 2-day first. So you just finished the mountain run. You probably feel a bit banged up, and you might get there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you think, I got heaps of time. I'm not racing till the next day. Got heaps of time. Yep. Biggest key tip is get your stuff done early, get organised, get some recovery food on board, plenty of fluids, have a stretch, have a massage if you need to. And, you kind of want to have all those things done ideally kind of within that first hour of finishing. Once you've done that, go and get your boat organised. You can get your dry bag and stuff pre-screwed in here, which will help your support crews out for the following day. And just get your bike ready and make sure all the things are ready for the next morning. Once you've done that, then you can relax. Go and have a sleep, have a lie down, just chill out for the rest of the day and enjoy the atmosphere that is Klondyke Corner. That's probably the biggest thing. Just get organised. We do see a number of people every year. They finish, they go and chat to everyone, and how's everyone getting on? And then you see them at 8 o'clock at night still bashing around the place, headlights on, getting bikes organised and boats, and everyone's trying to get to sleep. So 2 days, get your stuff organised and relax, and then go to bed. 1 dayers.
And also on that, while you're doing that, is just keep eating during the afternoon as well. So have a good feed as soon as you finish, and then make sure you've got some food and fluid sort of available as you're doing those jobs, and sort of getting your support crews day too.
Yeah, and it can be sometimes not everyone stays at Klondyke Corner. People might stay at Arthur's Pass or Castle Hill or Flock Hill and want to stay off site, which is totally fine. Everyone has their own ways of doing things. But again, whilst you kind of want to hang around and chat to everyone, it's your day. You've worked hard to get here. Let's just not muck it up by saying good day to everyone else when you could be getting your stuff organised. So even if you're an Arthur's Pass, head away, get your stuff done, come back and hang out. Enjoy the day.
Good stuff.
One day is quite a different atmosphere for you guys. You can. I've been through there on the 2 day, and you think, oh, this vibe is awesome. There's people everywhere, food carts out. Everyone's all having a good time. You get there on the 1 day on the Saturday, and everything's gone. It's like, holy hecker, what happened here? So the 1 day support cruise. If you see Klondyke Corner as a bit of a buzz on the Friday, don't expect it'll be like that on the Saturday. There will be mechanics and those sorts of things. So if you really do need stuff, but yeah, just be prepared for that. The people that are going really well in the 1 day, you'll get off that run feeling pretty good, and you'll be looking forward to getting on the bike. It's a lot smoother. It's a really good opportunity to get some food in. The transition is pretty straightforward, probably very similar to the first transition of the day through A'kins Corner. So you finish the run, get on your bike and kind of head away. It's pretty self-explanatory as to where the marshalling and stuff is. It's not the panic that there is in the first transition because the field is so spread out. So that's all the team or the individuals that are going really well for the day. Those that sort of start arriving at about 2 o'clock-ish, 1:30 to 2 o'clock, that's kind of when things start to change a little bit. And it's at that time you kind of have to start having hard conversations with your athlete that, if you've had a really hard day and you've been really beaten up and you're now kind of going to be pushing to get on the river, we've got to think, is that the wisest thing to do, especially depending on the weather conditions and those sorts of things. So for support crews, if you get athletes turning up at around 2 o'clock, an hour to get on the boat is cutting it pretty fine. You've got, 15K bike ride, got to get down the hill. It might not sound a lot, but it might take them 10 minutes from the top of the hill, get down, get changed and get in your boat. So you kind of got to factor all those sorts of things in too. So, we've been there before. There will be some tears amongst athletes, but that's the reality of this race. You don't want to be sending your athlete into a river when they're cold, tired, maybe carrying an injury and those sorts of things. So you really got to think as a support crew about that big picture. But that's probably the biggest part of it. And again, too, I think, not really talking about the next trend or the getting into the river, but again, that's another, as support crews, athletes get very determined, and sometimes the support crews do need to make that kind of hard decision, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, good. And then just in terms of the actual logistics of the transition is just, again, like any transition, just be really accurate. Don't faff. Just keep moving as much as you can.
Yes.
Don't stop for too long. Eat while you're on the move. Don't stop and eat. Then you'll be going well and heading in the right direction, heading towards the finish line.
Yeah. And for the 1 days, there is quite a long run. You kind of come through the finish chute, around the corner behind the kiosk, and then kind of into that transition area. And your support crews, they have a demarcation point as where they can and can't go as well. So it is quite short, but again, for 1 day, there's plenty of room. You have your bikes all racked up. So, and again, there's plenty of time once you've left A'kins Corner. There's plenty of time to get to Mount White Bridge, get your boat scrutineered, and then kind of come back. Unless you're kind of in that kind of elite end of the field. So, Joe average, you've got plenty of time to go and do those things. So,
yeah, but don't muck around either.
Don't muck around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All righty. So what we're going to do is, like we have done in the last few episodes, we've got a Kathmandu Coast to Coast pop quiz as part of the 40th year anniversary this year. So Matt's going to hit the buttons. He's going to bring our 3 guests in tonight. So we've got Hayden, we've got Rikki, and we've got Nicole, and Sophie's just turned up as well. How good, Sophie?
Welcome, team. Big night.
Good stuff. Excellent. Okay, so what we're going to do, like we've done before, for those listening, watching, etc., you're going to say buzz and raise your hand at the same time if you're going to answer it. And if you're listening, watching at home, see if you can get that before these guys do. So, first question. Name the first town that you travel through on the Kathmandu Coast to Coast.
Buzz. Jackson?
Ooh, yes, Rikki. Jackson. No. We'll throw it open to the floor.
Buzz.
Kamara.
Town that... Oh, go with Hayden because he actually raised his hand at the same time, which I like. Go Hayden.
Kamara.
Kamara, yes, Kamara. Well done. One to Hayden. Good job.
I thought it was a trick question. I was like, what?
Clearly, Ricky's had a bit of a head start on day one.
He's flying so fast he didn't even.
I've never seen Kamara.
Sure. All right. Question number 2. Name 3 compulsory items that you need to be in your dry bag.
Buzz. Sophie. Hand.
Good, well done. That's good teacher work there, Sophie.
Trying to cover all the bases. In your dry bag would be duct tape.
Yes.
You've got to have spare thermal top and bottoms and a mid layer.
Good. Well, that's almost 4 things. So
That's 4.
I'll only give you 1
Bonus
point.
points.
Just while we're on that subject, make sure your jacket complies with the regulations too, that it's got a hood and it's seam sealed and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, I'm sure Kathmandu will sort you out with a jacket if you don't have one. So question 3, Rich, go ahead.
Okay, the final bike ride is very straight. How far is it without a bend on that one straight section?
Hayden.
Hey,
26k.
go.
Isn't it 26k?
Matt?
I
You
think
agree with
that's
that?
probably pretty. It's within our 5 kilometre plus or minus margin of error. So yeah, we'll go with that.
And then if it is a bend, it's only a very slight one, isn't it? You can see it on the.
And it's horrendous.
It's a long way. It's not long in the car, but
It's still quite long in the car. Okay, Rikki, you need to get off the mark here. Hayden's for 2, and Sophie Nicole, you're in a team together, so you're on 1. Nice work. Okay, Matt.
Time trial bikes permitted in the 2-day event.
Sophie.
Oh, Rikki. It's definitely Rikki that time, wasn't it?
That's a big no, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah, well done. Good job.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the final question. So we've got Hayden on 2. We'll make this question worth 2 points, so anybody can win from here. Right, final question, most important one. What's the best thing? What can support crews purchase for breakfast on Saturday morning at the Kayak put-in at Mount White Bridge? Rikki.
Bacon and egg, buddy.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
It's got to be the bacon egg, buddy. Yeah, from Sheffield School at Mount White Bridge. Well done. And you've come out of nowhere, Rikki, to win the pop quiz. Good job.
Yeah, no, they're definitely. If for anybody listening tonight, make sure your support crews have got $20 to get breakfast. Actually, both mornings, because the locals do a fantastic breakfast. So it'll put your support crews in a very good mood for the day, considering they've had to get up quite early. So, yeah, it's good, Kai.
Good job. Okay, cool. We'll catch you guys later, and we'll grab Hayden, shall we, Matt?
Yeah, sure thing.
So a quick intro as you're pushing the buttons. Hayden, Thom is a physio from Motus. They're the guys that strap your ankles pre-race and also help put you back together at the medical tent at Klondyke corner if things don't exactly go to plan. So Hayden's role tonight is going to make sure that you hopefully actually make it to the start line in one piece and hopefully don't visit him and the rest of the Motus crew in the tent during the race. So Hayden's completed the Kathmandu Coast to Coast multiple times and has helped lots of people actually make it to the start line over the years as well. So got a few pearls of wisdom to throw at us, Hayden. And you did the tandem team last year. This year you're just biking this time around. How's the training been going?
Oh, it's been good. Yeah, I've enjoyed it feels a little bit crazy sometimes. And I do miss the hill running. I really miss that. So it's quite nice just to tick off a couple of good solid indoor trainings and then get on the bike at the weekend and so it's taken a little bit of pressure off. I've actually been able to play a few rounds of golf of late as well. So,
that's dangerous. Make sure you don't get injured.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, it's been really nice actually. But yeah, I do miss the running, not the kayaking so much.
Nice. So just on the tandem, because that's what you did last year. Have you got a tip for or a piece of advice for Nick and Sophie who are lining up for their first coast to coast in the tandem team section?
Yeah, I thought about this question a bit today, and I was going to talk about the fact that get in the boat and spend heaps of time and get used to each other. But I guess over that 5 hours, you're not going to stay in time too often anyway. So I kind of thought about it, and I guess have a blast training wise. It's so much fun doing the event with someone. I think you go through so many roller coasters throughout the day, and one of the teammates is on a high and rolling good, and the others are struggling a bit, and so you can kind of push each other along, and then it swaps around, and then there's moments of quiet, and so you have some good yarns along the way, and you still talk about it. So I'm still really close with the two mates that I've done it with in the past, and we still yarn about it. So just enjoy it.
Good. That's a key question. You're still friends. That's important. So last year, and we actually caught up you on last year's podcast, but it was just before race day, and obviously that makes it trickier, and there's less things that you can say to kind of make a difference. But December now, a couple of months out from race day, what are the most common coast-to-coast injuries that you tend to be seeing at this time of year? Yeah,
so we're probably getting more tendon overload based stuff at the moment. So Achilles, hamstring, ITB, patella tendon at the front of the knee there. And it's probably because what's happening now is that our training is increasing quite a bit, and we're starting to get into the multi-day or the multi-training sessions, so bike and run. And if we haven't prepared the body properly to kind of cope with that increase in load, the tendons particular can get a little bit grumpy, and that's exactly what they do. They don't tear, they don't rupture, they just become grumpy and overloaded. And with that training spike. So generally, that's the type of thing that we're seeing.
So do we just stop and rest, or do we with the tendon, or do we load it up more, do some strength training, or do we just come and see you? Because it depends on everyone's different. What's generally the idea?
It's a combination of all three of those things, really. It's with tendons, it's in particular like really nailing that load management. So if it's really irritable, then it is settling it down, allowing it to settle. But then also tendons don't really like not moving either. So it is, you do get going on them, really quickly, but it's actually getting some advice around the proper training load and making sure that you're sticking to your plans, and having those recovery days and building that up. Because I guess at this stage as well, when we're increasing our training loads, we can often neglect the strength training.
Yes, because it is, and I've noticed that myself. Like, it's actually, oh gosh, I don't want to do that strength session because I'm going to have sore legs after that as well. So, or even just time pressured as well. We don't fit that in because we don't have enough time. But just do a little bit of something is the trick, isn't it? In regards to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Because like when you took me through last year with my training plans and coaching, that 10-15 minutes at the end of your wind trainer session in the morning to do your body weight, squats, lunges, those kind of things there. That's all you need, and it just kind of ticks and make sure that all the right muscles are working in the right way.
Yeah, good. So just activate those muscles, turn them on, but find some time. And I think for me, it's squashing them amongst a session that you're already doing rather than having to try and remember to do them again. Let's face it, we don't do them when we're watching TV on the couch at night because we're chilling out. Like, actually do it while we're changed, and do it when we're sort of in that mindset of training.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. And you actually did teach me that, and I was much better last time than what I am this time round, I must admit. But I guess if we can keep those muscles and tendons strong, then they'll cope with that increase in load, and just making sure that we don't spike.
So is there any, on a particular injury, is it like you talked about tendons, is it your Achilles tendon, or is there a dodgy ankles kind of thing? Is that going on? Is people doing more sort of trying to do some rock running, or elbows or shoulders amongst the paddling?
Yeah, so it's probably a lot more around the front of the knee, so the patella tendon. And it's particularly prevalent on as you're now starting to go over rocks and jumping up on things and then down on things. We can actually put a lot of pressure through the front of our knee as we're constantly loading there. And I guess that's, again, seeking the advice, making sure that running technique and stuff is good. And then again, I know when we talked about it last year, it's making sure that you keep your running over the rocks light and you're kind of going with it in a way so that all that pounding load isn't just going through the front of the knee. I guess when you are starting to now go over rocks and over some of the trails and hitting roots and all that type of thing, I guess the potential for rolled ankles and and twisted knees and having a wee trip and reaching out and grabbing something and sort of yanking the shoulder. So those things, of course, are probably a little bit more common at this stage as well. But again, you can't necessarily prepare for those and kind of prevent those trips and falls. So I guess, again, staying as strong as possible and sticking to your training plans so that you're making sure that you're not, super fatigued up the top of the Port Hills running over unstable ground when your body's just had enough for the day because you've tried to jam a much bigger run in because you're starting to panic that we're now 8-10 weeks out, that you're starting to really overload.
Yeah, and I think that's important in regards to that training plan. Like sometimes the training plan, first of all, like at the moment, it's raining lots and maybe we can't do what we're planning to do today. So we might shift it to tomorrow. So a training plan's got to be movable and you've got to be in touch with your coach and work with that or just listen to your body, because even I might be riding my bike and it turns out to be a longer bike ride because there's a headwind or something like that. So there's reasons why things might be going longer. There's more load on you than we sort of initially planned for. So listening to your body, get some feedback around it, adapt it as you go, because the training plan should actually only be a guideline, especially at this time of year. So especially as what you're saying. So
the non-negotiable in the training plan though is the recovery day.
That's right. Yes.
So you might do an increased run or be a bit longer on the bike, but or miss a hill run that you're supposed to do or substitute it with an indoor session because it's been raining for 3 days. But then it's not making sure that then we try to squeeze all those sessions in the subsequent days and sacrificing that recovery day, because that's what's going to allow the muscles, the tendons and everything to settle.
Yeah, and people are generally pretty motivated to be able to go out and do more, and we never feel like we've ever done enough. That's just the nature of the game, isn't it? Yeah. So actually just having a little bit of time off, listening to your body is super, super important. Is there any other prevention advice that you've got in regards to, from your perspective? Because obviously we want to prevent things rather than trying to, obviously we want to support you in your business and what you're doing with Motus. You do a great job. But obviously, ideally, we don't want to come and see you, do we?
Absolutely. And our job is to get you back training as soon as you possibly can and sort of get out of the clinic, because we get the buzz from actually discharging you and getting you back going. So prevention wise, recovery day is the most important, but also maintaining that strength alongside it, particularly around glutes and core, and that kind of will tie in nicely with your stability, so that you've got that strength to sort of go with the unstable ground and even in the boat, to be able to cope with the paddle and keep yourself nice and stable. So
should we be doing balance as part of that? Like, is that a key prevention sort of tool as well?
Yeah, well, that's the stability work we were just talking about. So any balancey stuff on unstable surfaces, single leg, close the eyes, move the head around. All that stuff on Bosey balls as well, if you've got a gym membership. So those are the half Swiss ball things that, just train the body to cope with those undulating surfaces. Yeah,
and as you said, keep doing it. Don't stop just because you're trying to increase your training load. Keep ticking on with that.
Absolutely.
Does equipment choice affect your chances of injury? How does it, like thinking about running shoes, I guess, your bike, your paddle, maybe paddle especially, it's maybe something we don't think of so much. We're just often happy that we've actually got a paddle.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not so much equipment choice that is probably making the difference, but it's the fit and the comfort of that choice. So I know on the bike in particular, it can feel really nice and comfortable. And I've actually just recently had mine redone, and my seat was ever so slightly too low, and it meant that I was extending out here and I was getting quite uncomfortable all the way through my shoulders. And I've been going a year and a half on that same bike, and just lifting the seat up ever so slightly, getting a proper setup, has now meant that I can relax my arms down. It releases my hips, and I've actually seen my power just increase ever so slightly. Cool. So it's more around the fit more so than the equipment. With shoes as well, it's they've got to be comfortable on. So they might be the perfect sort of stability shoe and all this type of thing. But if you're just not comfortable in them, you're never going to run with a natural gait, a natural running style, and therefore you're never going to allow all the right muscles to work in the right way. So yeah, it's all about fit. Same with pedal.
So one of the things that we see kind of prior to everyone kind of mooching around the day before the races, everyone's all strapped up and looking bulletproof, and that's fantastic. But some people are actually allergic to strapping tape. So
absolutely,
how do you know that you're allergic to it? And if you are, what do you do about it? You know, you've just been and got strapped up, and you're at the hotel that night, and it's like, oh man, this is hideous. What do we do about this?
Yeah. Well, you got to get it off immediately. And then if a pharmacy's still open, get down there and get the creams on it and get that irritation to settle. What we do find though is majority of people have got to that stage and they have had strapping tape in their life at some stage, and generally people know that they are. But it's also thinking about the fact that if you haven't actually trained with strapping tape on, then just because you're seeing this massive line waiting up for the physios over there to strap your ankles, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to join the line to kind of match them. If you haven't trained with it on, then you don't need it. Because you've trained your body to cope with the undulation, so you in theory probably don't necessarily need it.
Yeah. Just another question too around. It's all good for 2-day athletes because they can get all strapped up at registration, those sorts of things. But for 1-day athletes, registration no longer exists on the Friday morning. So what are their options for getting strapping on the day before?
So on the Friday morning, that's a good question.
Do it themselves because they should have trained with it, so they should know how to do it by that stage.
Yeah. I guess that's probably one of the key differences between 2-day and 1-day. You know, the 1-day athletes do need to be a little more self-sufficient. We've had athletes that we've looked after that someone's got a tweak on the Friday night or something, or Thursday night, and we've ended up kind of taking them through to Klondyke to get them strapped up where the physios and stuff are. So
we're at the tent at the finish line, looking after all the cuts and the scrapes and stuff there. So. I haven't seen too many people get strapped up there in the past, in my experience, on the finish line there. But I'm sure someone can help out if that's the case. YouTube videos, everything.
Yeah. We've had cases before, as I say, where athletes that end up broken on the day before, and they don't really want to have to drive through to Klondyke just to get strapped up. And of course, there's no physios in Greymouth because they're all associated with coast to coast somehow, so just be prepared. But no, that's good advice.
The strapping tape is nice. I haven't had any troubles with ankles in my life, but I still strap them for the mountain run. But that's the one thing though is make sure that you've trained with the taping on, so at least you can, because it does feel different. It pulls on your hairs and it does feel different. So please just make sure you train with that first before you don't just sort of turn up, because you'll hate the first 3Ks with that strapping.
Cool.
Right.
All right, thanks, Hayden. That's all really cool advice.
Yeah, good stuff. And just if I've got a bit of a niggle now, what do I do, Hayden?
Just don't panic first and foremost. Get in and see one of the team ASAP and come up with a plan, because the sooner you get onto it, the sooner we can settle things down and actually get you moving again. And even if it's getting you going for some hill walking instead of running, that's still ticking off some training sessions. That means that when you're able to get running again, you haven't completely dropped down and lost a lot of that fitness base. So
good. Yeah,
perfect.
Awesome, Hayden. Well, look forward to seeing you on the start line. You've got a 2.2K run to do and a bunch of biking as well. So, all the best for the rest of your training, and we'll see you over at Greymouth in 8 weeks' time, something like that.
I can't wait. Love it.
Good job. See
awesome.
you then.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Good, eh? So,
that's
Rich,
right.
You're lining up for another crack at the 2-day. How's the body coming along?
the old body, the old veteran's body. Yeah, not too bad. I guess trying to do a bit of that strength training, but I mean, there's niggly injuries, a bit of a foot injury. Like I think I might have mentioned that I played a bit of football, got called up to the 7th division Sunday every second week church league, and a bit of an ankle going on there and all sorts of things. But I don't know. I guess over time I've got dicky knees, I've got a dodgy back, I've got shoulders are beaten up, my elbows a bit average, my ankles, my foot, sort of thing. So I've got to feel this. So I mean, it is a great way to learn about your body, isn't it? Because you're like, okay, well, that's the meniscus there, and that's the cartilage over there, and that's that nerve injury there, sort of thing. So I could probably give a lot of support and feedback to others.
Sounds like you're just about ready to race. But
just about,
I guess
exactly.
The other things that are kind of old and beaten up is your kayak. What sort of shape is that in at the moment?
Oh, the kayak's in great shape. It's my kayak helmet that I've had a chorus of sort of calls for maybe we need a new one, which I got secondhand in the year 2000 actually. So it's definitely from the mid 90s or so. So I need to put more stickers. Need to put more stickers on to save the plastics from the UV rays, I think.
It certainly looks like a helmet that's done every coast to coast that's been to date. So might have to splash out and buy yourself a new one. But,
maybe we need to give a little page or something.
Yeah, but the real reason why I asked about your boat, we're going to bring on someone that is quite knowledgeable in the field of kayaking.
Yes.
Who we got?
Yeah, so Rikki Griffin. So Rikki is a kayak builder, coach, grade 2 assessor, based out of Southland, New Zealand. He's passionate about paddling, has supported lots of different athletes to get their grade 2 certificate and to help them learn to love paddling over the years. He's a regular on the start line of the Kathmandu Coast to Coast and knows a whole bunch of the twists and turns of the Waimak River. So if you're nervous about the paddle section and would like a tip or two to go faster, let's pull in Rikki to the show, shall we?
Rikki, how are we?
Very well, thanks. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, good stuff, Rikki. How are you at the moment? Are you busy with kayaking and helping people out at this time of the year? What's happening at your end of the neck of the woods?
Just at the moment we're starting to wind things down a little bit, but it's been a massive year to get to that point where we can start to wind it down. We built a lot more kayaks this year than we did last year. We've had a lot of people through on their grade 2 programs, a lot of new kayakers, a lot of returning kayakers from sort of 15, 20 years ago, some of whom are coming back like with their kids now, getting them into the sport, but have to do their own refreshers as well. So, it's been a very big year and we've enjoyed it. We're looking forward to a break.
Yeah, good stuff. And let people go and do the build up the experience on the river because you've given them those skills, I guess, as part of that development in terms of their paddling.
Yeah, 100%. And look, one of the really cool things that's happened in the last few years is that's come about through events like the Coast to Coast selling out earlier, that people have their entries in earlier and therefore they're getting organised earlier. So, 5-6 years ago, we would run an autumn program and have maybe 4 or 5 people on it, but in our spring programs would be really busy. Now it's the opposite. Now the autumn program, back in sort of April or May is booked out sort of soon as it's open. And when we get to spring, we've really just got the sort of the tail enders coming through who starting to get a little bit worried that it's too late, but it's okay. We sort of get them there.
Yeah, and it's a better time of year to learn kayaking, isn't it? In the autumn, opposed to sort of having the snow melted things of spring.
Rivers are lower, they're more consistent and reliable. People have got tans, they're fit, they've been outside all summer. And spring's a bit of a shock to the system.
Yes, absolutely. So you're a boat builder. So you've purchased all of Graham Sisson's molds, designs and expertise. You spent some time learning from him and you're continuing to develop your own brand, which is 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and you also have a couple of new designs in the pipeline as well. What does it take to make a good kayak? Obviously, that's something that the last couple of years that how long, what's the process on that?
Yeah, so I guess firstly, it's a really interesting question because I think a lot of kayak manufacturers and retailers would probably agree with me when I say that there's not necessarily such thing as a good kayak and conversely a bad kayak. It's more an appropriate kayak, and so probably use the word appropriate. more than good, just because you can have a really good boat that just totally doesn't suit a person, and it's going to be a bad boat for them. You can have a really good boat that's really, really popular, that you can make some changes on, and now it's a different boat, but it's going to suit different paddlers. Maybe some people are looking for something that's more nimble, accelerates better, rails more easily. But you put some other people in that same boat, and there's not enough primary stability for them. They feel a bit wobbly, a bit twitchy. So I guess as kayak designers and manufacturers, and when we're developing like a new concept for a boat, we think about the person that we're going to target with this boat first. We look at different types of paddlers and where they're at in their paddling progression, and think, what are they looking for? What do they really need at this point? Like, are they looking to progress to an elite level of paddling, in which case they might want a boat that's going to help them to do that, and will be just inherently a little bit twitchier, and to help them to learn a bit of balance. But at an intermediate stage or even a beginner stage, it might have some good secondary stability. So while it feels a little bit wobbly, they're not going to be tipping over all the time. Maybe just sometimes. Versus there's plenty of kayakers in the multi-sport world who, for them, kayaking is always going to be their third sport, and they're happy to get down the river, and they want as much free speed as they can get, but they don't want to spend their whole life trying to develop their kayaking. So they really want a boat that's as easy as possible to paddle. And so that's two quite different boats for different types of paddlers, even just within that intermediate range that I'm talking there.
Nice. So talking of kayak nerves, let's jump into that. So there's lots of nervous kayakers out there at the moment, this time of the year, partly because the weather often is, actually, I tried to have this river trip and I couldn't get it, and that's another weekend gone, etc. So what advice would you have for paddlers a couple of months out from race day?
Yeah, like, it's such a good question, Richard, because it's just so natural, like kayaking is a very foreign sport to a lot of people. In your first year of kayaking, you've learned this huge plethora of skills. You've had swims, your confidence has increased and then got knocked back, and maybe trying to build it again, all those things. And you're sort of wondering where you fit in the grand scheme of things. How am I going to go on race day compared to everybody else out there? Am I going to be the guy swimming, or am I going to be the one charging ahead? And so everyone's going through the same sort of deal, and that's a good thing. Like, it's why we do the sport. If it was not the sort of thing that gave us nerves, then why would we bother? We're there to be challenged, and that's really cool. So I guess, in terms of tips for kayakers that are in this sort of progression, there's three main sort of areas, or main tips that I'd give to people. And the first one's preparation. So, start doing longer paddles as early as you can, and like speaking to Hayden's point earlier, you don't want to be spiking all of a sudden. You want to build it up slowly, but you still want to be getting out and doing longer paddles as early as possible. And that's going to do a couple of things. It's going to not only have the physiological effects of helping you to be more stable in your kayak, more comfortable. A lot of people talk about numb legs and numb bums for the first 3 months or 4 months, and then it just seems to sort of miraculously go away for most people. But also it's going to get you used to some of the equipment you're going to need to take with you on those longer trips. So getting used to having hydration on board, in your buoyancy vest. Where do you put your snacks? Do you need some sort of sun visor? Do you get sick of water splashing in your eyes? All those little sort of things that you just want to start getting sorted out earlier rather than later. The second point is, again, preparation. So get to as many events as you can. Go along, see what other people do. There's so many experienced kayakers out there. Look at the ones who just look like they know what they're doing, and just sort of look at some of the details. Sometimes the devil's in the detail. How are they setting things up? What does their sort of pre-race kind of regime look like? just sort of, I don't know, don't stalk, but you want to be sort of observing as much as you can. And then the third point, probably guessed, Richard's preparation, right? So, yeah. So, and this one's a little bit of an odd one, a bit different. So I find it really good for people to push themselves beyond the requirements of a race day situation. Not only for confidence to know that they're actually able to cope with not only what's required on race day, but more than that, and then when they come back to what's actually required on the race day, it's like, actually, oh, this is not too bad. This is quite easy compared to what I've just done. But it also goes beyond that. Like it enables people to get a really good perspective on what they're dealing with. So there's some great sort of YouTube footage that you could see, just on a little bit of a tangent, but like you could go in and search up the Green River kayak race, where these people are just getting absolutely hammered on these really, really hard rapids. Like, they're just getting trashed, but they're just having a ball. Like, these guys, the guys and girls have been down these rapids before. They sort of know what they're in for. There's a massive crowd cheering, and they're getting a good old-fashioned thrashing, but just having a really good time and popping out the bottom of it, and it's a good day for them. So, I mean, obviously, we want to do it all. Have fun with it, yeah. We want to do it all safely, but it's really good to get some perspective by actually extending yourself a little bit further, so that when you see rapids on the Waimak, you're like, oh, actually, this is, in comparison to what else is out there, this is not quite as daunting as maybe some people think it's going to be when they start out.
That's right, and it's talked up a lot as well. So you've got to go and see it yourself, ideally. But what should people be doing if they can't make it to the Waimak? If the Waimak is the first day they see it as race day, because that happens and that's part of it.
Yep, really good question again. So my first advice is don't stress about that. In our grade 2 programs, we often probably preach to ad nauseum about the concept of learn to read a river rather than just learning a river. And lots of people have probably heard that before, but it's really, really good advice, and we're quite strong on that. So I think there's quite a few paddlers that in their first year or two probably make the mistake of doing as many trips as they can down the Waimak and just trying to memorize the lines, And look, there's nothing wrong with getting on the Waimak as often as possible. That's not going to hurt. But the thing is, people shouldn't be trying to memorize the lines. They should be trying different lines, reading the water in different ways from different angles, doing things they maybe wouldn't think they should do, just to see what happens, and getting the skills from that, so that if there's a flood a week or 2 or 3 weeks out from coast to coast, or even just as flows slowly change, the river changes, that there's not going to be any bad surprises in there for them. Nice. They've actually developed skills.
Perfect. Have you got a river reading tip for those that are heading down the river? What should we be thinking about?
Yeah, first of all, actually do read the river is probably the biggest tip. Don't follow the people that are in front of you that you assume are reading the river on your behalf. Assume that you know more than most other people on that river, because you possibly do. And if you've done your training, you've done some coaching, you've done some practice and things, so back your own skills and read the river. I talk about a thing called traffic light syndrome, where when you're sitting at traffic lights and the light goes from red to green, and you're the 12th car in the row, and if everyone put their foot on the gas at the same time, you'd be away. But it can take a minute to get going, just with that sort of 2 or 3 or 4 second pause between each car. The same thing happens on the river. If you're following a line of kayaks, kind of like ducks in a row, the first person makes an adjustment, the second person makes that adjustment 3 or 4 seconds later, and so it goes back down the chain. And if you're 7 or 8, 9, 10 kayaks back in that chain, you're making that adjustment after the event. You've already gone through the hole or into the rock, or hopefully not against a tree or something like that. So you want to be looking well ahead, making your own mind up about what you're doing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's a great tip. What about a technique tip for paddlers, for those people that want to try and improve their paddling and go faster? Because yes, there's lots of rapids and things to negotiate in the Waimak, but there's also lots of flat bits where you just got to actually do some paddling, or if you're just there for a social time and enjoy a 𝗠𝗔 bar. If we're looking to try and go faster, what is a technique tip that you would give paddlers?
Yeah, I guess pro tip, just make sure you're looking good for the cameras, and just grovel down the rest of the river however you need to between camera shots. I did note in your profile picture you sent to us, like you were looking very good in that photo for that one moment. It's funny you say that, because I cringe whenever I see it, because my right elbow is just awkwardly high. I don't know how I didn't get a crook neck or something like that for the river run. But look, there is so much to do with technique. It's a big can of worms, and it's a scary conversation to get into, because you'll start me now and I won't stop talking for another 2.5 hours. But I guess the key thing is, if you're relaxed in your kayak, you're sitting up nice and high for a starter, and you're pushing forward with that top hand at a nice height, sort of chin to eye level. Elbows are relaxed and down, your shoulders are relaxed, then you're 95% of the way there. You're paddling nicely if you're doing those two really simple things. If people want to take it further than that, there is just so much stuff out there. There is, again, a video I could really recommend, a guy called 𝗢𝗌𝗆𝗆, who's a coach out of the UK. He's very good. You search up 𝗢𝗌𝗆𝗆 masterclass, thousands and thousands of people have learnt from his videos. There's one in particular, the masterclass. Yeah, most of the coaches around the world are sort of using his sort of teachers.
Perfect. No, that's great tips. And do you have a gear tip or trick that you could share?
Gear, I guess, goes back to my 3 main tips really of preparation. And the key thing is, whatever you're using, use it before the race. Make sure that it's something that you've trialed. If it doesn't work for you, you've found that out weeks before the race, not on race day. Whether it's a paddle, whether it's a hydration system, and particularly a hydration system. Actually, you see a lot of people getting on the river. They get going and you sort of see them mucking around with nozzles and things, trying to work out why they're not getting flow. So all those things should be well sorted, weeks, if not months, before the race. It's probably, rather than getting into individual certain things, that would be my biggest advice: is try stuff early, use it, find out if you like it or not, and get it sorted before race day.
I guess that's all great things. Maybe my pro tip around that would be, if you're paddling on the Avon River in Christchurch, probably don't try and check out your hydration system there. That's probably a poor lead-up event activity.
You're talking about the river intake system, the freshwater intake system? Yeah, I don't think they call it a freshwater intake system on the Avon. Duck bill intake system or something.
So we were talking about nerves and stuff before, and I guess a lot of people get on the river now. It's a long way until the race, and they might get out and do the Waimak Classic, and the river's up, 80, 120 𝗠𝗏, and it's a pretty cool trip down the river. Race day comes along and we're down to 40 to 50 𝗠𝗏, and that can change the river completely, but it can also change the amount of time it might take for athletes too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people going down the river at the moment, like in 4 or 4.5 hours, which is, on a typical coast to coast race day, that would be a really, really pleasing time. Phenomenal. And are perhaps thinking, sweet, this is not so bad. I think my first coast was like 32 𝗠𝗏, and I was maybe running a 5-hour 10, something like that. And that was my first time down the river too, for me personally. I hadn't followed any of my 3 main pointers and prepared whatsoever. So I remember actually screaming at the, this is on the one day as well, screaming at the cliffs at one point. I hadn't seen another human being for about 30 minutes and yelling out, like, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? I was just in physical agony. And the thing I learned from that, and this is getting to your point, how do you prepare for those changes, is is it's so important to have a good why when you're doing an event like the Coast to Coast. And apologies, I haven't been able to see all of your podcasts, and someone might have talked to this in the past perhaps, but it's just so important, hey? Like that's what I discovered after that first coast of mine. I didn't go well, and when I looked at it, I realized that I did the Coast to Coast because I'd been helping a good friend of mine, Rob Rush, prepare for it, and doing a bit of training for him and with him and things like that. And I was kind of like, oh, I'm kind of got fit doing this as well, so why not do it? And the reason I was there was why not? And that just did not cut the mustard when I was 4 hours into the paddle and exhausted. So second time back, I had a really good why, and just enjoyed it a lot more. I took an hour off my time without being any fitter, and found the whole experience a lot better. So yeah, I guess if you've got a good why, it doesn't matter how long those stages take. You know, the Waimak can take you 6 hours, but at 5 hours and 59 minutes, you still know why you're paddling. You know what your end game is, and why you're there. Yeah, as long as you're prepared with nutrition and things, then you'll get through no problem.
Yeah, I guess the key point there is that, yeah, it will most likely take longer. So just prepare your food and hydration for those sorts of things that that could be a wee while kind of thing. Yeah, cool.
That's great.
That's great.
Hey, thanks for your time, Rikki. Thanks for your insights. I've learned something, as always, and that's part of the reason for doing this podcast. Just trying to be better, a little bit better. So, no, love your work. Keep all that great stuff in terms of what you're doing, coaching, teaching people, and look forward to, will we catch you around the Coast to Coast this time around?
Yeah, I've been dragged in again, support crewing for my brother-in-law. I started that, I don't know, several years ago, and it seems to have been a life sentence that I signed up for, and he's back again. So I'll be around, and I'll give you guys a wave, and good luck for the race, Richard.
We'll be there. We'll be the guy with the funny hat, so be good to see you there.
Good stuff. Cheers, Rikki.
Okay. See you later.
Thanks, Ed. Nice work.
Cool. So what was your key tip out of that, Richard?
Get my new kayak helmet sorted. No, preparation is the key thing. No, I really like this why at the end when your bum's sore, when you've had enough and you don't want to be there anymore. I think it's just super important to remember that and define that, and that's a really good. You should have had that now, but write it down as part of your race plan and get that sorted for yourself. I think that's super key. Lots of really good stuff. And learn to read the river. Don't worry about the different places along the Waimak. Don't worry about what other people say. Actually learn to read a river, and then you'll be good.
Yeah, and I think that is it's the river's not that wide, so there's in some places there's not that many options, but I think it's being confident in your own ability, isn't it? And making your own decisions and not necessarily following people. You follow some people and they all of a sudden they hit the riverbank or something and they turn around going backwards and you're following them and, or they're tipped over halfway down the river, across the river, and it's like, where do I go now kind of thing. So, sometimes it's a bit like that bunch riding thing too. It's like, if you see where you want to go, just put the effort in, get there first, and be in control of what you can be in control of as opposed to being controlled by others in the river, isn't it?
And I really like the on the river paddling on race day when there's a few others around and learning from other people's mistakes as well. Can I cut that line a little bit better? Or they turned at the last minute to the left. Oh, I can get there a little bit quicker and improve and catch them by a couple of paddle strokes. Often it's you people are paddling about the same sort of speed, but actually if you can pick slightly better lines, then you'll do better and catch them without actually trying any harder or being stronger necessarily in the boat.
Too right. I mean, you got all that water pushing you down the river. Use it as efficiently as you can. Find where the biggest flows are and get into it in a safe manner.
Nice
work. Some really key tips here too around making sure the bits on your boat work beforehand too. I mean, we see it time and time again. Bent rudders or broken strings or drink systems that don't work or people that turn up a transition and haven't got a life jacket or just this. We'll talk about that transition in a later episode, but there is that kayak is if you want to see some sights, go and hang out there for the day. But
sounds like you've seen a few plenty of sights there, Matt.
But it does all kind of come back to that as Rikki was saying, just preparation. It's do it now when you're not in race conditions or you're freaking out the week before the race. over summer holiday, get under a tree with a book or a piece of paper and just write, go through that stuff in a calm and logical manner and just write lists of what you can and can't do and what you should do and what you should have and those sorts of things. So but I mean, while we talk about it being there's all these things to think about, it's a hell of a place through there. It's just beautiful.
Yep. Yeah, nice work. Well, let's move on. Let's grab Sophie and Nicole. So pretty keen to check in to see how their November has been. Sophie and Nicole, are you back there?
Are we going to have a bet on whether we think they're still teammates, or have you got the inside word on that?
Well, they were here. I'm not sure. Well, actually, are they in the same building? I'm not sure. They have been together in the previous podcast, haven't they, in the same place? Let's just check on that, actually.
Well, they were here for the quiz, but, we never know. We better ask that question. How are we ladies tonight?
Hi, team.
Very well, thank you.
Are we still a team? Let's answer Matt's question first.
Last time I checked.
Oh, well, that's a bit awkward, but yeah, I guess for sure we are. Their team.
Nice work.
How has your November been? What's been happening? Can you give us a score out of 10 and why?
Oof. Yeah, I'd probably go with a good 7, 8 out of 10. It's been very, very busy. Obviously had 𝗥𝗶𝗸𝗘𝗏, which we caught up about, but then that was followed by wedding the following weekend in Waimak, followed by a korfball training camp the following weekend, and then followed by a surgery. So it's been, pretty full go, but I think it's just been about taking the small wins and taking little bits and pieces of training wherever I can squeeze it in, and just trying to, little is still better than nothing. So that's kind of been, I guess, my motto over November. And I bought a kayak. So that probably puts 7 out of 10 up to a good 8, 8.5 out of 10, I would say.
That's good. I mean, it's real life, isn't it, Nicole? Like life happens. And although we'd like to do this and this and that, but actually you've got to do all these other things and make sure you've still got a job and still got some friends and you've got to be healthy as well. Yep,
100%. Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we've got 8.5 out of 10 for Nicole. What were you giving your November, Sophie, and why?
I think I'd be much the same, maybe an 8 to a 9. It's been pretty hectic. Term 4 of school is always really busy as teachers, but it's a flickering light. I had 2 school camps in the span of about 2 weeks, which is pretty full on, but it's been a bit of cross training as I've been campaigning and rafting and doing all of that stuff on camp. But I'm feeling really good, and the training's been really good when it's been happening. And I also bought a kayak. So yeah, I've got a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, good stuff. That's awesome. So 9 out of 10. Okay, that's you guys are going okay. Yeah. So could we have one highlight and one low light of the last month?
I'll take a highlight. I think we started joining in with some of the TeamCP group training, and I think for both of us, just having some more like-minded people to get involved with training with has been really cool and really neat for us both to just expand our horizons a bit and do some really, really brutal sessions where other people are suffering.
Not just me that's suffering. Okay, yep, good stuff. So we're calling that a highlight, aren't we? Just to confirm that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. What about you, Nicole?
Yeah, I completely agree. Sophie and I have been fizzing after our sessions, but I think for me, mine's kind of been all in one, a low light and a bit of a highlight, I guess. So after a few years of kind of pain and battling through the GP system, I finally kind of pushed through and got a specialist appointment, had a surgery 10 days ago now. So finally got diagnosed with endometriosis. So I've kind of been on a little bit of a spreading awareness battle, I guess, lately. So I guess it's kind of a bit of a low light. It's kind of forced me to take a rest, but also been a highlight because I guess, nice to get some relief and finally some answers, and knowing that the pain wasn't all for nothing. I guess it's been a bit of a stress thinking that I'm going backwards, that I'm not training, that I'm not kind of doing anything. So I'm just kind of trying to approach it as a bit of it's a forced rest. I'd trained pretty hard up until that point, knowing that it was happening. So it was quite good. Kind of what Hayden was referring to, having a chance to sort those niggles out and just giving them a really good chance to kind of rest and do nothing, so that I'll be able to hit the ground running and hopefully be better and stronger. And obviously feeling better will help. I'll be able to, hopefully tackle our next few months better and stronger than what I was before that. So that's how I'm kind of mentally approaching it. And I think that's probably the best way that we can. Yeah.
Well, you've got to be right. Otherwise, you're no good for race day. So you've got to get it sorted now, don't you? So that's exactly the right thing to do. So it just has to happen. Levels of confidence currently. If race day was tomorrow, how would we go? Obviously, not make sure you're healthy first.
Not so good.
I'll give her a couple more days.
I tried this morning, so we're getting there. Slowly.
Yeah. Nice.
I think confidence is good in our individual disciplines. Would you say that?
Yeah.
I think we both got a pretty good understanding of like where we're both at and the different strengths that we bring to our team. But I think we're not there yet with stringing it all together. I'm not convinced that we would be able to get out of a kayak and actually move our legs on the bike or get off the bike and run over goat tunnels. So I think, look, if the race was next weekend, I think we'd finish, but it wouldn't be pretty. So I think these next 60 days or so are going to be pretty important. It all 60 days.
Yeah, nice work. So, and that's good, isn't it? It's a matter of learning the pacing and how you're actually going to put those together, and you build confidence as a result of doing that as well. So that's good. Plan for Christmas and the holidays. You guys are teachers. Does it mean we don't have to bother about kids for the next how many ever weeks? 6 or 8 weeks? What happens next for you guys?
Yeah, it's about that. We're all done. Lots of time to train.
Yes, good.
So I like to take my summers pretty full. I've got lots of family stuff happening over Christmas and stuff, doing a bit of tripping around, some time up in the Motus Sound, getting tramping in Nelson Lake. But basically it'll be training as I move around the place and, having a kayak on the roof and a bike on the back of the car, making it happen. Looking forward to a goat pass run as soon as possible, as soon as we get a weather window, because we've got no classes to teach. We can basically see a nice day and go for it. So, that's going to be pretty cool.
That sounds like a dream, Sophie. That's fantastic. Lots of adventures. What about you, Nicole?
Yep. So I'm Christmas at home here in Christchurch, and then followed by a goat pass trip soon after that with Dad and a few of his mates. So I'll tag along, which will be awesome. And hopefully that won't be the first one. Soph and I can do one in the next few weeks, hopefully. And then, joining in with Soph for a bit of a New Year's Day tramp or New Year's Eve tramp, which will be pretty cool. And then followed by 10 days up in Kaiteri with the fam before we head back to start school. So Dad's very excited. He's already talking about chucking the kayak on the roof and tagging along with me and bike riding and all sorts. So it'll be quite nice just to have a bit of a change of scenery up there, still doing the same disciplines, but obviously, bit of a different scenery around to keep it exciting before we get back around the streets of Christchurch in the last few weeks before the big event.
So
that's great.
That sounds like some busy times coming ahead. What's our skill of the month that we're working on at the moment?
Paddling a kayak without flipping upside down, probably.
I think
good.
kayak
we've got some flash new paddles.
Flash new boats, all right.
Flash new boats, flash new paddles.
The boats are not new. The boats are very old, but the paddles are new.
Brilliant. Nice
Good stuff.
Awesome. Well, you have a fantastic summer. Get out and enjoy the most of New Zealand as it has to offer, and enjoy experiencing whole lots of adventures and making the most of that coast to coast training.
Will do. You guys too. Thank you.
Okay.
Good. Well done. Thanks for joining us. Cheers, team.
Bye.
See you next time.
Whoops, see you next time. She's gone. Good stuff. Well done, Matt. Thanks for pushing the buttons for us tonight.
That's all right. All good. We'll be back here in a month's time, talk about some more bits of this race. As people get a little bit more nervous, but also more prepared and ready
and
for race
hopefully
day.
hopefully more excited at the same time, eh?
Yeah, yep, good.
Yeah.
Anything
Should
coming
be
up,
good.
Rich?
What have I got coming up? Yeah, probably. I've got school camp tomorrow, so that'll be a bit of fun. So getting up to Bora River with a whole bunch of 10 and 11-year-olds, so that'll be good. And just trying to get out for a few adventures as well, trying to make some training fun, and making the most of it.
Cool. So coaching, we've still got spots available, and support crew. How are we getting on with that? We've still got spaces available there too?
So there's a couple of spots available for 2-day coast. We're full for longer stay, so that's available if you do want any support or help there. And also coaching capacity, we have got a couple of spots, but if you do need a hand, just sing out as soon as you possibly can, and we'll help you out and as best as we can. So yeah, look after yourself, enjoy your training. A great big thanks to Hayden, Rikki, Sophie, and Nicole for joining us tonight. Look after yourselves and make the most of your training. And get out there and have an adventure.
So, right. Thanks, Rich. We'll see you at the next one.
Cheers, team. Thanks heaps. Over and out.
It's the best Kiwi event in New Zealand, this.
Crossing New Zealand in 1 or 2 days.
Why do I do it? Because I love it.
3, 2, 1.